She gave her mother 9 years. Every pill, every midnight panic, every quiet sacrifice no one noticed. Claire didn't expect applause, just the smallest proof that her mother trusted her. But at the will reading, one name is chosen for power, one name for the house, and Claire's name lands in the place that hurts most. The room goes still. Her brother smiles, and Claire realizes she wasn't the most trusted child after all. The question is, why would a mother do that? Claire Harper sat in the stiff chair closest to the window, her hands folded so tightly in her lap that her fingers tingled. Outside, late afternoon light turned the parking lot into a sheet of dull gold. Inside, everything felt gray. Across from her, Michael leaned back as if this were a meeting he could leave early. His knee bounced. He kept checking his phone, thumb flicking the screen every few seconds. Next to him, Tara sat very still, eyes glossy and fixed on the folder in the lawyer's hands like it might bite her. Claire noticed details the way she always did when she was trying not to feel something. The line of dust on the baseboard, a scuff mark on the carpet near the door, the gentle ticking of a clock that sounded too much like a heartbeat. 9 years. That number kept repeating in her head, not as an accomplishment, not as a badge, but as a weight. 9 years of pill organizers, refill requests, insurance calls. 9 years of learning the difference between I'm fine and I'm pretending. 9 years of standing in grocery store aisles comparing sodium content like it mattered more than her own life. 9 years of waking up in the middle of the night because she heard a sound, or because she didn't. 9 years of being the one who showed up. And now, finally, they were here. The reading of Evelyn Harper's will. Claire had told herself she didn't care about money. She had repeated it like a prayer, like a moral shield. She did not care about money. She did not care about the house. She did not care about being rewarded. What she cared about was something far quieter and far more dangerous. She cared about being seen. Mr. Sutter, the attorney, adjusted his glasses. His voice was calm in the practiced way of someone who had spent a career sitting in rooms with strangers' private pain. "Thank you for coming," he said. "I know this isn't easy." Michael let out a small laugh. Not cruel exactly, just careless. "We're here. Let's do it." Claire felt her jaw tighten, but she said nothing. She'd learned a long time ago that if she spoke too soon, her voice would shake. Mr. Sutter opened the folder. "I'll begin with the appointment of executor," he said. Mrs. Harper named her son, Michael Harper, as executor of her estate. The words landed like a slap. Claire blinked once, slowly, as if her eyes could deny what her ears had just accepted. Michael's bouncing knee stopped. He sat up a little, surprised, and then, almost instantly, pleased. Tara's lips parted, her gaze darting toward Claire for a fraction of a second before returning to the folder. Claire felt something in her chest go hollow. Not because she had wanted the job. God, she didn't want it. The paperwork, the decisions, the responsibility, the idea of it made her tired down to her bones. But the choice itself, the meaning. Executor wasn't just a role, it was a statement. It said, "This is the person I trust to carry my final wishes." And Evelyn had not chosen Claire. 9 years. Claire's hands loosened in her lap, not because the tension disappeared, but because she couldn't hold it anymore. Mr. Sutter continued, "There are additional instructions and distributions, and I'll go through them one by one." Claire barely heard him. Her mind moved backward, as if someone had turned a knob and rewound the last decade of her life. She remembered the day it started, not with a big moment, not with an ambulance or a diagnosis, but with a small phone call on an ordinary Tuesday. Evelyn had sounded tired, not dramatic, not pleading, just tired. "I don't think I should drive to the store anymore," she'd said, as if she were talking about the weather. "My knee's acting up again." Claire had been 38 then, divorced for 2 years, trying to rebuild her life into something steady. She had a job she didn't hate, a small apartment with a balcony she watered herbs on, a routine that felt like healing. She had driven to her mother's house that evening with groceries, telling herself it was temporary, just until Evelyn felt better, just until they figured out the knee. The house had looked the same as it always had. Pale siding, a rose bush that needed trimming, a porch light that flickered. But inside, there were small changes Claire couldn't name at first. The stairs seemed steeper. The corners seemed sharper. Evelyn moved slower, carefully, like someone walking on thin ice. "You shouldn't have come all this way," Evelyn had said, though she didn't reach for the bags. She watched Claire carry them in like it was the natural order of things. Claire had smiled. "It's fine. I had time." That's what she always said. "It's fine. I have time." Michael had called once that week, maybe twice. "How's Mom?" he'd asked, voice full of concern that never turned into action. "She's okay," Claire said. "Knees bothering her." "Yeah, that happens," Michael replied, and the conversation drifted to his job, his commute, the new tires he needed for his truck. Tara had been more emotional, more dramatic. "I feel so guilty," she'd said over the phone from 3 states away. "I wish I could be there." Claire had believed her at first. She had believed guilt meant someone might change. But months passed. The knee didn't improve. Then it wasn't just the knee. Then Evelyn's blood pressure needed monitoring. Her medication list grew longer. Her balance got worse. Then there was a fall in the bathroom that Evelyn tried to laugh off until Claire saw the bruise spreading like ink across her mother's hip. The temporary turned into a routine. The routine turned into a life. Claire started spending most nights at the house. At first, she brought her work laptop and did emails at the kitchen table while Evelyn watched old shows in the living room. Then she left a toothbrush in the upstairs bathroom. Then clothes. Then slowly, without ever announcing it, she moved in. She didn't call it moving in. She told herself she was helping out. A few years in, the doctor called it what it was. "Mrs. Harper is showing signs of early cognitive decline," the neurologist said gently. "It may progress slowly, but you should plan for increased support." Claire's stomach had dropped. She had nodded like she understood, like she was capable of planning for a future that suddenly felt like a storm coming in. Evelyn had squeezed her hand afterward, surprisingly strong. "I'm not going to be a burden," Evelyn said. "Promise me." Claire had swallowed and lied with love. "You're not a burden." She never told Evelyn what it cost to keep that promise. She never told her about the promotion she turned down because it required travel. She never told her about the man she'd been seeing, kind and patient, who eventually stopped asking her to go away for weekends. She never told her about the resentment that crept in quietly, not toward Evelyn exactly, but toward the way the world kept spinning while Claire stood in place, holding it all together with her bare hands. And through it all, Evelyn continued to do what she'd always done. She praised Michael in small, constant ways, like the sun rising. "Michael called today," Evelyn would say, voice bright. "He's so busy, you know, but he still checks in." Claire would nod, even when Michael hadn't called in weeks. "Michael said he might come by next month," Evelyn would add, hopeful. "He's just got a lot going on." Claire would smile, even though she'd learned not to expect him. And Tara would send gifts through the mail. Candles, cozy socks, a blanket once. "Isn't that sweet?" Evelyn would say. "Your sister is so thoughtful." Claire would hold the blanket and feel something in her throat that wasn't gratitude. Because Tara was thoughtful in a way that could be packaged and shipped. Tara's love had tracking numbers. Claire's love was changing sheets at 2 in the morning. Claire's love was knowing which mug Evelyn wanted on which day without being told. Claire's love was catching her mother's hand at the top of the stairs when her foot slipped. Claire's love was quiet and constant and invisible. There were moments, of course, when it felt like Evelyn saw her. Once, after a rough week, Evelyn had been confused at night, frightened, calling for her own mother who'd been gone for decades. Claire sat on the back porch steps with her head in her hands. She didn't realize Evelyn had followed her. Evelyn eased down next to her, careful, with a groan she tried to hide. For a moment, she just sat. The night air was cool. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked once and then quieted. "You're a good girl," Evelyn said softly, as if speaking to a child. "You always were." Claire's throat tightened. She kept her head down. Evelyn's hand touched her shoulder, light as a moth. "I don't know what I'd do without you," Evelyn said. Claire wanted to say, "Then why does it feel like you don't see what you're taking?" Instead, she said, "I'm here." Because she always was, but there were other moments too. Moments that cut in ways Claire didn't admit to anyone. Like the day Claire found a bank statement on the kitchen counter and realized Evelyn had been sending Michael money again. Hundreds at a time. Sometimes more. For car trouble, for a tough month, for something he needed. Claire hadn't been angry at the money. The house, the bills, the groceries. Claire paid for a lot of it without complaint. That wasn't the point. The point was that Evelyn didn't ask Claire if she needed help. Evelyn didn't ask if Claire was tired. Evelyn didn't ask if Claire could afford it. Evelyn simply assumed Claire would manage. Claire always managed. When Claire finally brought it up, carefully, gently, as if approaching a sleeping animal, Evelyn bristled. "He's my son," Evelyn said sharply, "and he's struggling." Claire kept her voice calm. "I'm not saying you can't help him. I'm just... Mom, we have to plan. You can't keep sending money like this." Evelyn's eyes flashed. "You don't understand. You never have." It was an old sentence, a familiar weapon. Claire had stood there, heart pounding, feeling suddenly like a teenager again, responsible and wrong at the same time. "What don't I understand?" Claire asked. Evelyn looked away. Her jaw worked as if chewing a thought she didn't want to swallow. "You don't know what it's like to worry about him," Evelyn said finally. Claire stared at her mother, and in that moment something shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, but like a crack forming in glass. Because Claire thought, with a clarity that scared her, "She worries about him more than she worries about me." Claire carried that thought like a stone in her pocket for years. Heavy, always there, sometimes forgotten until she moved the wrong way and felt it again. Now, in the lawyer's office, the stone felt like it had grown teeth. Mr. Sutter's voice floated through the room. "Mrs. Harper's primary residence," he said, "will be transferred to Michael Harper." Michael's eyebrows lifted. He opened his mouth, then closed it, as if trying to act surprised and failing. Tara made a small sound, half inhale, half gasp. Claire's lungs didn't work for a second. The room tilted, just slightly. The house. The one Claire had kept running. The one Claire had cleaned, repaired, painted. The one Claire had slept in for nearly a decade, waking to her mother's needs like a second heartbeat. Evelyn was giving the house to Michael. Claire felt heat rise in her chest. Anger, humiliation, grief, all tangled together. Mr. Sutter added, "There is a provision here. Michael Harper will assume ownership under the condition that he does not sell the property for a period of 5 years. During that time, he will permit Claire Harper to reside in the home rent-free should she choose, and he will cover the property taxes and homeowner's insurance." Michael's face tightened. He glanced at Mr. Sutter. "Wait, what?" Mr. Sutter remained calm. "Those are Mrs. Harper's stipulations." Michael's jaw clenched. The satisfaction on his face flickered. Claire's mind raced. Rent-free. Permission. As if she were a guest. As if she hadn't already paid in years of her life. Mr. Sutter continued. "Additionally, Mrs. Harper left the sum of $40,000 to Tara Harper." Tara blinked fast, as if the number was a language she didn't speak. "And," Mr. Sutter said, Turning a page, Mrs. Harper left the remainder of her liquid assets, approximately $65,000, to be placed in a trust for Claire Harper. Claire's head snapped up. A trust. Not a direct inheritance? Not a simple gift? A trust. Mr. Sutter looked at Claire. The trustee of this account will be Michael Harper. The room went utterly still. Claire felt the words hit her body before her brain could translate them. Her stomach dropped. Her hands went cold. Her face went hot. Michael's eyes widened. Me? Tara's gaze darted between them, frightened now, like a child watching a storm form over the dinner table. Claire heard herself speak, though she didn't recognize the sound of her voice. Why, she said slowly. Would she do that? No one answered. Mr. Sutter's expression softened, just slightly. Mrs. Harper included a letter, he said. She asked that it be read aloud after the distributions were explained. Claire's heart thudded. A letter. Evelyn's voice, preserved in ink. Mr. Sutter picked up a single sheet, folded neatly. He unfolded it with care, like it might tear under the weight of what it carried. He cleared his throat and began to read. My children, if you are hearing this, it means I am gone, and I'm sorry you had to sit in a room like this to learn what I could not say out loud. I was never good at saying things at the right time. Claire, if you are angry, I understand. I hope you will read all the way to the end before you decide what kind of mother I was. Michael, if you are surprised, you shouldn't be. I have been trying to fix you since you were a boy, and I have never been sure if I was helping you or hurting you. Tara, if you feel like an outsider, that is my fault too. Distance didn't begin with geography. It began with the way I made choices. Mr. Sutter paused, letting the words settle. Claire felt her throat tighten. Evelyn's handwriting, Evelyn's cadence, even in the lawyer's voice. It pulled Claire backward into the kitchen, the living room, the quiet moments when Evelyn seemed almost ready to admit something and then turned away. Mr. Sutter continued, I want to tell the truth, even if it makes me look small. Claire, you took care of me. You did it in a way that was not just duty but love. You were there when I was afraid. You were there when I was embarrassed. You were there when I forgot the names of things and pretended I didn't. You were there when I thought I had lost myself. I know what you gave up, even if I didn't always say it. I saw you come home tired and still make dinner. I saw you pretend you weren't lonely. I saw you become the person everyone leaned on, and that is why I did what I did. Claire's breath caught. Mr. Sutter's voice stayed steady, but Claire could hear the shape of Evelyn's guilt in every line. I did not choose you as executor, Claire, because I did not want to take any more from you. You already carried my life for years. I did not want you to carry my death too. You have always been the one who does the right thing. The reliable one, the strong one, the one who would divide everything fairly and make sure everyone was okay, even if you weren't. You would do it without asking anything back. And I was afraid that if I gave you that responsibility, you would do what you always do. You would sacrifice again. You would stay in that house because it felt like what you should do. You would keep being the one who holds everything together. I wanted you to have a reason to leave, if you needed it. That house is full of memories, and it is also full of years you lost. I didn't know how to give you those years back. I still don't. But I did not want to hand you another burden and call it trust. Claire's eyes stung. She blinked hard, refusing tears. Not here. Not in front of Michael. Not in front of Tara. Mr. Sutter continued. Michael, I am naming you executor because you need a responsibility that cannot be avoided. You have avoided too much for too long. You have been forgiven too easily. You have been protected by my love in ways that were not fair. I have also protected you because I was afraid of what would happen if I didn't. I sent you money when I shouldn't have, because I carried a fear that started when you were a child. I have never told anyone this, not even Claire. When you were 8 years old, I left you alone for 15 minutes to run to the store. 15 minutes. When I came back, you were on the floor in the kitchen, choking. It was a grape. A stupid grape. The neighbor heard me screaming and came running. You lived. But something in me never recovered. I have spent your whole life trying to keep you from dying again. That's what I did to you, Michael. I made you the center of my fear. I made you the center of my attention. And I made your sisters pay for it. Michael's face had gone pale. His mouth opened, then closed. His hands, resting on his knees, curled into fists. Claire stared at him. She had never heard that story. Evelyn had never told her. Mr. Sutter continued, I am making you trustee of Claire's trust because I want you to do something you have never done. Take care of her. Not with words, not with promises, with action. The money in that trust is not a prize. It is a repayment, as much as I can repay. You will release those funds to Claire in monthly payments for 5 years, enough to help her build a life that is not built around my needs. You will not control her. You will not interrogate her. You will not make her ask. You will do this quietly, consistently, because she has done that for all of us. If you fail to do this, the trust transfers immediately to a third-party trustee appointed by Mr. Sutter's office. I included legal enforcement because I know who you have been. I am giving you one last chance to be someone better than your habits. Claire's heartbeat thundered in her ears. A trust with conditions, a trap and a test at the same time. Mr. Sutter continued, Tara, I am leaving you cash because you have always been the one who floats, the one who keeps distance when things get heavy. You have your own life, and I don't resent that. But I also know you have watched Claire carry too much and told yourself there was nothing you could do. There was always something you could do. My greatest regret is not the money, not the house. It is the way I made Claire responsible for everyone's comfort. Claire, I did not trust you less. I trusted you so much I abused it. And I'm sorry. I hope, when the anger fades, you will remember the times I loved you well. And I hope you will forgive me for the times I didn't. Love, Mom. Mr. Sutter lowered the letter. The ticking clock filled the silence like water. Claire sat perfectly still, her body locked in place while her mind spun, sense and didn't. Because part of Claire sense and didn't. Because part of Claire wanted to scream, you could have just said that. You could have told me you were sorry while you were alive. And part of her, deeper, quieter, felt the truth in Uvelin's words like a bruise pressed. I trusted you so much, I abused it. Michael cleared his throat. His voice sounded rough, like he hadn't used it in hours. I didn't know about the grape, he said, staring at the floor. I don't remember that. Claire looked at him. For a moment she saw not her brother, the adult, careless, charming, unreliable, but a boy shaped by a mother's fear. It didn't erase what he'd done. It didn't give back what Claire had lost. But it made him human in a way she didn't want to admit mattered. Tara wiped her cheek quickly, as if embarrassed by her own tears. Claire's voice came out quiet. So, she said, I'm supposed to… What? Ask him for my own money? Mr. Sutter shook his head. The trust is structured to issue automatic monthly distributions. You won't have to request them. The trustee, Michael, will ensure the account functions as written. If he interferes, the enforcement clause activates. Michael looked up. It's automatic? He asked. Mr. Sutter nodded. Yes. Michael exhaled. Something like relief moved through his shoulders, quickly followed by something else. Shame, maybe. Claire wasn't sure. The meeting continued. Practical details explained. Paperwork signed, questions answered. But Claire moved through it as if underwater. When they finally walked out into the parking lot, the air felt too bright. The sun had dipped low, and the sky was streaked with soft orange and pink, like the world was painting itself to distract from what had happened inside. Michael stood by his truck, keys in hand, looking uncertain for maybe the first time in his life. "So," he said, forcing a laugh that didn't land. "That was something." Tara hugged herself, as if cold. "I didn't know," she murmured. "I didn't know she felt that way." Claire stared at the asphalt. Her throat felt thick, her jaw sore from holding things in. Michael shifted his weight. "Claire," he said, quieter. "I didn't ask for the house. I didn't—" Claire cut him off, not with anger, but with something colder. "It doesn't matter what you asked for," she said. "She chose." Michael winced. She also said— "She said a lot of things," Claire replied. Tara stepped forward. "Claire, please. She was trying to— She was trying to do what?" Claire's voice rose slightly, and she hated that it shook. "Fix us. Fix him. Fix herself. She used my life like it was a tool." Silence fell again. Michael's face tightened. He looked like he wanted to argue and didn't know how without sounding like the villain. Tara's eyes filled again. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Claire looked at her sister, really looked. Tara's face had always been softer, younger somehow, even now. Tara had always been the one Evelyn worried about in a different way. Worried she'd be hurt, worried she'd be disappointed. Claire wondered if Tara ever realized that Claire had been hurt and disappointed for years, and nobody seemed to worry about that. "I'm not asking for apologies," Claire said, voice quieter now. I'm done being the person everyone expects." Michael swallowed. "What does that mean?" Claire looked at him, and for the first time she didn't soften her truth to make him comfortable. "It means you're going to handle the house," she said. "You're going to deal with the taxes, the insurance, the repairs. You're going to do it, like Mom wanted." Michael's eyes widened. "But you know how—" Claire shook her head. "No." Tara's voice trembled. "Where will you go?" Claire stared at the sky. The colors were fading, and the first small stars were coming out. "I don't know yet," she said, "but somewhere that doesn't feel like a hospital room." Michael stepped closer. "Claire, listen, I can—" Claire raised a hand. "No speeches," she said. "If you want to be better, do what she wrote. Don't make it about you. Just do it." Michael's face flushed. "Okay," he said, voice low. "Okay." Tara's shoulders sagged. "I should have come more," she whispered. Claire didn't comfort her. Not because she wanted to punish Tara, but because she couldn't keep carrying other people's feelings. "I know," Claire said simply. Tara flinched as if struck, and Claire hated herself for a second. But she also felt something else, something unfamiliar and clean. Honesty. That night, Claire went back to the house alone. It was strange to unlock the door knowing it was no longer legally hers in any way, not even as the person who had lived there. The air inside held the scent of lavender cleaner, the kind Claire used because Evelyn liked it. The house was quiet in a way that felt wrong, like a room holding its breath. Claire moved through the rooms slowly. The living room couch where Evelyn had watched her shows, her favorite throw pillow still dented from where she used to lean. The kitchen table with the small scratch mark where Evelyn had once dropped a knife and laughed nervously. The hallway where Claire had installed nightlights because Evelyn started getting disoriented in the dark. Upstairs, Evelyn's bedroom door stood half open. Claire hesitated before stepping in. The room smelled faintly of Evelyn. Lotion, powder, something floral that felt like childhood. Evelyn's side of the closet still held her sweaters, neatly arranged. The bed was made with the same quilt Evelyn had used for years, the one with faded blue squares. Claire sat on the edge of the bed. The mattress didn't move much without Evelyn's weight. The emptiness was total. She pressed her palm against the quilt, as if she could reach through it into time. For 9 years, Claire had imagined what it would feel like when it ended. She had imagined grief, relief, guilt, She had imagined the freedom tasting bitter, like medicine. But she hadn't imagined this. She hadn't imagined feeling like the world had taken her job away without offering her an identity in return. Claire's phone buzzed. She looked down. A text from Michael. "I'll come by tomorrow to talk about the house. I'll bring the paperwork from Sutter. And I'll handle the utilities from now on." Claire stared at the message for a long moment. Then another buzz. A text from Tara. "I'm sorry. I know that's not enough. I'm here if you need me. I mean it." Claire set the phone down. Her body felt heavy, but her mind kept running. Evelyn's letter replayed again and again. "I trusted you so much I abused it." Claire thought of all the times Evelyn had leaned on her without asking. All the times Evelyn had assumed. All the times Evelyn had praised Michael for doing the bare minimum and treated Claire's devotion like air, necessary, invisible. Claire thought of the grape story and felt anger, yes, but also something else. A sadness so deep it almost softened her. Because Evelyn had been afraid. Evelyn had been trapped inside her own fear, and she had built a family around it without realizing she was building walls. Claire lay down fully on the bed, still in her clothes, staring at the ceiling. She didn't cry at first. She just lay there, feeling the quiet press against her. Then, finally, a tear slipped down the side of her face, and another, and then the dam broke. Not dramatically, not with sobbing, but with the kind of silent crying that feels like the body draining poison. Claire cried for Evelyn. Claire cried for herself. Claire cried for the years that had blurred together into one long season of caretaking. She cried until her eyes burned, and then she fell asleep. The next morning, Claire woke up to sunlight and a strange sense of disorientation. For a second, she forgot Evelyn was gone. Then the reality returned, sharp and immediate. Claire moved through the house like someone visiting a place she used to live. She made coffee out of habit. She reached for Evelyn's mug out of instinct, then stopped and put it back. She sat at the kitchen table and stared at the calendar on the wall, still marked with Evelyn's last appointment. Crossed out, rescheduled, crossed out again. By 10, Michael arrived. He came alone. No girlfriend, no friend, no emotional backup. He carried a folder and looked like he hadn't slept. Claire met him at the door. He glanced past her into the house, his expression tightening. "It feels weird," he said. "It is weird," Claire replied. Michael stepped inside, awkward, like a teenager returning home after doing something wrong. He set the folder on the table. "So, I'm the owner now. On paper," he said quickly. "But you can stay. Mom wrote that, to set up accounts." Claire watched him to set up accounts. Claire watched him. He looked overwhelmed already, and a familiar reflex rose in her. To step in, to fix it, to take the burden back because it was easier than watching someone fail. But Claire held still. Michael rubbed his forehead. "I don't even know where to start," he admitted, voice rough. Claire's mouth tightened. "Start where I started," she said. "Make the calls." Michael looked up, frustration flickering. "Yeah, but you're good at that stuff." Claire laughed once, sharp and humorless. "I wasn't born good at it. I became good at it because nobody else did it." Michael's face flushed. He looked down. "Okay," he said quietly. "You're right." The words startled Claire. Michael rarely said that, not in a way that sounded real. He cleared his throat. "I'm going to switch the bills into my name. And Sutter explained the trust. It's automatic. I don't have to decide anything." Claire nodded. "Good." Michael hesitated. "Claire, do you hate me?" Claire looked at him. Really looked. 9 years of resentment sat between them like a third person. But hatred was too simple, too clean. "I don't know," Claire said honestly. "I'm tired. I'm angry. I'm grieving. And I don't trust you." Michael flinched. "That's fair." Claire felt something in her chest shift again. Small, unfamiliar. Michael swallowed. Mom, she made it sound like I was the problem, he said quietly. Claire's eyes hardened. You were part of the problem. Michael's jaw clenched. I didn't ask to be the favorite. Claire's voice stayed calm, but it was steel. No, you didn't. But you accepted it. You benefited from it. You let her keep giving you chances while I was cleaning up the mess. Michael's eyes shone, and Claire realized with a strange shock that he might actually be close to tears. I didn't know how bad it was, he said. Claire exhaled slowly. You didn't want to know. Silence. Then Michael nodded once, stiff. Okay. Claire waited for him to argue, to defend himself, to flip it around like he always did. But he didn't. He just sat there, staring at the folder like it held a map of a life he didn't know how to walk. After a long moment, he said, What are you going to do? Claire looked around the kitchen. For years, her days had been built on Evelyn's needs. Wake up, check medications, plan meals, appointments, laundry, cleaning, listening for the sound of a fall. Now, the space of her life stretched out like a road into fog. I'm going to leave, Claire said, surprising herself with how steady her voice sounded. Michael blinked. Like, move out? Yes. But Mom said you can stay, he said quickly, like it was a gift. Claire's mouth tightened. I know. That's what makes it possible. But I'm not staying. Michael looked confused. Why? It's free. Claire stared at him, and her voice softened just a little. Not for him, but for herself. Because if I stay, she said, I'll keep living like my life is on hold, and I can't do that anymore. Michael swallowed. Where will you go? Claire shook her head. I don't know, but somewhere that's mine. Michael nodded slowly, as if trying to understand a language he'd never learned. I'll help you pack, he offered, awkward. Claire paused. The old version of her would have said no, out of pride, out of bitterness. But Claire wasn't interested in pride anymore. She was interested in balance. Okay, she said. You can help. That's a start. Michael's shoulders sagged slightly. Relief and guilt tangled together. They didn't talk much after that. They went through practical things. Where the documents were, which accounts existed, the contact info for the insurance agent. Claire didn't hand him instructions. She didn't make lists. She let him struggle. It was uncomfortable. It was necessary. 2 days later, Tara arrived. She pulled into the driveway in a rental car, stepping out with a tote bag and eyes that looked tired from crying in private. When she saw Claire, Tara's face crumpled. Hi, Tara whispered. Claire stood on the porch, arms loosely crossed. Hi. Tara took a step forward, then stopped, as if unsure if she was allowed. I feel like a terrible person, Tara said, voice shaking. Claire didn't rush to comfort her. She let the words hang in the air. Tara swallowed hard. I should have come more. I should have... God, Claire. I should have done something. Claire looked at her sister. Tara had always been the one who escaped. Into distance, into excuses, into the belief that avoiding pain was the same as not causing it. What would you have done? Claire asked softly. Tara blinked. I don't know. I could have taken turns. I could have stayed for weeks at a time. I could have helped financially. I could have... Claire nodded once. Yes, she said quietly. You could have. Tara's eyes filled again. I'm sorry, Tara whispered, and this time it sounded less like guilt and more like truth. Claire felt her anger flare, then settle. I'm not saying this to punish you, Claire said. I'm saying it because I can't pretend anymore. Mom's gone. There's no point in pretending. Tara wiped her cheek. I want to fix it, she said. Claire let out a slow breath. I don't know if it can be fixed, she said honestly. But it can be different. Tara nodded, desperate. Tell me what to do. Claire looked out at the yard, at the rose bush Evelyn never trimmed anymore, the one Claire had kept alive by pruning it while her mother slept. Help me pack, Claire said. Tara's face flickered with surprise, then relief. Okay, Tara said quickly. Yes, of course. They spent the next week moving through the house in a way that felt both practical and sacred. Claire sorted through drawers that held old receipts and forgotten jewelry. She opened closets full of things Evelyn had saved for no reason other than fear of letting go. Tara folded blankets. Michael carried boxes to the garage. Sometimes they spoke. Sometimes they didn't. Sometimes Tara would stop and stare at something. Evelyn's cookbook, her old wedding photo, a cardigan that still smelled like her, and tears would come. Claire didn't comfort Tara the way she used to. She didn't take on Tara's sorrow as her responsibility. She simply stood nearby, letting Tara feel what she needed to feel. One afternoon, Claire found a small tin box tucked behind folded towels in the linen closet. She almost missed it. Inside were letters. Some were old, cards from Claire's childhood, notes from school, a crayon drawing labeled Mom in shaky handwriting. Others were newer, unopened. One was addressed to Claire. Claire's breath caught. Her fingers trembled as she held it. The handwriting was Evelyn's, shaky but recognizable. Claire took it to the kitchen table and sat down. Tara and Michael were in the other room, arguing quietly about whether an old recliner was worth keeping. Claire stared at the envelope for a long time before opening it. Inside was a letter, shorter than the one the lawyer had read. Claire, if you find this, it means you're doing what you always do, quietly cleaning up after me. I want you to know something I didn't say enough. When you were little, I used to watch you sleep. Not because I was afraid you'd stop breathing, because you looked peaceful, and I loved you. I loved you in the way a person loves the one they know will be okay. And that sounds wrong. It is wrong. But it is the truth. Michael scared me. Tara confused me. And you made me feel safe. So I leaned on you. I leaned on you too hard. If I could go back, I would have asked less and given more. I can't go back. So here is the only thing I can give you now. Permission. Permission to leave. Permission to rest. Permission to let your brother and sister become adults in the ways they never had to. You were not put on this earth to be the glue. You were meant to be a person. Love, Mom. Claire stared at the page until the words blurred. Her chest hurt, not with anger now, but with a grief so deep it felt almost tender. Permission. She hadn't realized how badly she needed it. Claire folded the letter carefully and put it back in the envelope. She pressed it against her chest for a moment, eyes closed. When she looked up, Tara was standing in the doorway watching her. Tara's eyes were red. Was that for you? She asked softly. Claire nodded. Tara stepped closer, as if approaching something fragile. What did she say? Claire hesitated. Then slowly she held out the letter. Tara took it with trembling hands and read silently, her lips moving slightly. When Tara finished, she covered her mouth, sobbing quietly. I'm so sorry, Tara whispered, and this time Claire believed it. Michael appeared behind Tara, drawn by the sound. What's going on? Tara held out the letter without speaking. Michael took it, read it, and his face tightened. For a long moment, he didn't speak. Then he looked at Claire, eyes glossy. I didn't know, he said, voice thick. Claire nodded. I know. Michael swallowed hard. I'm going to try, he said. I don't know how to make up for it, but I'm going to try. Claire studied him. She didn't forgive him in that moment. Forgiveness wasn't a light switch, but she saw something in him. something that looked like awareness, maybe even remorse. It wasn't enough. It was a beginning. 2 weeks later, Claire moved out. Not far, just 15 minutes away, into a small one-bedroom apartment above a quiet bakery. The place smelled faintly of bread in the mornings. The windows let in light. The walls were bare, the rooms empty, but the emptiness felt like possibility rather than loss. On her first night there, Claire sat on the floor with a takeout container in her lap and realized something strange. No one needed her. No one would call her name from another room. No one would wake her at 3 a.m. asking where the bathroom was in the house they'd lived in for 40 years. Claire felt a sudden rush of panic, like she'd stepped off a moving train and the ground was too still. Then, slowly, the panic softened into something quieter. Relief. The next day, the first trust payment landed in her account. Automatic, simple, like a small acknowledgement written in numbers. Claire stared at the deposit notification for a long time. It didn't feel like winning. It felt like finally being paid for a job she never applied for. She used it to do something she hadn't done in years. She took a day off. Not a day off where she ran errands. Not a day off where she caught up on chores. A real day off. She walked to a park with a book she didn't finish. She sat on a bench and watched other people live their lives. Couples walking dogs, teenagers laughing, an older woman feeding birds. Claire realized how long it had been since she'd sat somewhere without listening for a sound of distress. That night, Michael texted her. Utilities are switched. House insurance is set. I fixed the porch light. And I found the paperwork for Mom's old safe deposit box. I'll bring it by next time we meet. Claire read the message. No excuses, no dramatic apologies, no fishing for praise, just action. Claire's chest tightened, but not with anger. With something like cautious hope, Tara called 2 days later. I want to come visit, Tara said. Not to talk about Mom, just to see you, to be your sister. Claire hesitated. Then she said, okay. It wasn't a full reconciliation. It wasn't a clean ending, but it was different. Months passed. The house, now officially Michael's, began to change in small ways. Michael repaired what had been neglected. He paid the bills. He learned, the hard way, what it cost to own something that carried so many memories. He complained sometimes, but he didn't quit. Tara visited more often. She helped Claire buy a couch. She brought groceries not as a gift to ease guilt, but as a normal sisterly thing. Claire still had days when anger surfaced, sharp, sudden, like a memory of being unseen. Sometimes, in the middle of folding her own laundry in her own apartment, Claire would be hit with a wave of sadness so strong she had to sit down. Not because she missed the caretaking, because she missed the idea of a mother who had known how to love fairly. But slowly, Claire began to accept a complicated truth. Evelyn had loved her. Evelyn had also used her. Both could be true. And understanding that didn't erase the pain, but it changed its shape. One evening, nearly a year after Evelyn's death, Claire drove past the old house without meaning to. The porch light was steady now. The rosebush was trimmed. The curtains in the living room were new. For a second, Claire felt an urge to pull into the driveway, to step inside, to check the kitchen, to make sure everything was okay. Then she kept driving. She went back to her apartment above the bakery, where the air smelled like warm bread and the silence belonged to her. She sat at her small table by the window and looked out at the street below. She thought about the letter Evelyn had hidden in the linen closet, the one that gave Claire permission. She thought about how strange it was that a mother could spend a lifetime teaching her daughter to be strong, and then, at the end, realize that strength could become a trap. Claire didn't know if she would ever fully forgive Evelyn. Maybe forgiveness wasn't a single moment. Maybe it was something quieter, something that came in pieces, but Claire did know this. For the first time in 9 years, Claire's life was not organized around someone else's fear. It was organized around her own breath, her own choices, her own rest. And that wasn't selfish. It was late. It was deserved. It was human. Some families break with explosions, shouting, slammed doors, courtroom battles. Claire's family had broken in a quieter way, in years of unequal expectation, in silence disguised as love. And then, in one attorney's office that smelled like lemon cleaner and old paper, it had finally been spoken out loud. Claire had walked in believing trust was about being chosen. She walked out understanding something harder and truer. Sometimes the person who is trusted the most is simply the person who is used the most. And sometimes the only inheritance that matters is the moment you finally stop agreeing to carry what was never meant to be yours. In the soft quiet of her apartment, Claire let that truth settle. Not as revenge, not as bitterness, as a boundary, as a beginning. In the end, this story reminds us that the biggest heartbreaks in a family often come from silence, not from lack of love, but even in that silence, God can still work a miracle. Sometimes the miracle isn't a sudden fix or a perfect apology. Sometimes it's the quiet moment when you finally see your own worth, set a boundary, and choose peace without guilt. If you're the one who's always giving, always carrying, always showing up, please hear this. You are not invisible to God, and your sacrifice is not wasted. He sees what others overlook, and He can turn what was meant to break you into the beginning of a new life. Take this into your everyday routine. When you're tired, when you feel unappreciated, when you're doing the hard things no one claps for, ask God for strength, ask for wisdom, and don't be afraid to step back and breathe, because you were made to live, not just to survive. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs encouragement. Leave a comment with what you related to most, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next story. May God bless you, protect your home, and pour peace over your life. And may He reward every unseen act of love you've carried in silence.